We are live on Facebook. It's 12:01. What we're going to do, those that have joined already, welcome. We're just going to play an intro video and then we're going to do the official start. Ding, 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 there he sits inside the local coffee shop, sporting a man bun and facial hair. Somehow he believes, although he has no job, that by his 30s he will be a millionaire. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A. Gotta love millennials. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A. Gotta love millennials. She posts lots of selfies on her Instagram with the quote that's inspirational. Hopes to change the world while wearing yoga pants on, with her dreams and knowledge of essential oils. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A. Gotta love millennials. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A. Gotta love millennials. 27 years old, trying to make it on their own. Maybe start by leaving your parents home, but maybe we're just wrong. Criticism isn't easy for their ears. They feel like they know most everything. See, they grew up with undeserving confidence, cause they got trophies just for participating. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A. Gotta love millennials. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A. Gotta love millennials. In a couple of years, we will have to pass the torch. In a couple of years, they will be in charge, and one will be our president. Oh no. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A. Gotta love millennials. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A. Please pray for millennials. Nice. What a great sing-along song. So good afternoon again, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is our last B5 Africa webinar for 2021. So, and those that have kind of followed us along, this is our 7th one, and we are incredibly proud of our B5 Africa journey thus far. We definitely won't stop. We will start again early next year, but more about that later. So for the time being, just would like to welcome everybody. My name is Armin Wieland. I'm the founder here at B5 Digital, a full service digital marketing agency based in Windhoek, Namibia. Those of you that are joining from elsewhere on the continent or overseas, Namibia as a country in Southwestern Africa. And with me on the webinar today is my lovely colleague and co-host Aina Ilunga, joining us from the harbor town of Walvis Bay. And our keynote speaker today is none other than the famous Musa Kalenga, Zambian born, now living in South Africa, but more about him later. So today's talk will be about leadership at the speed of light. And we believe the intro video was already a taste of what is about to come. We're gonna have 45 minutes, including Q&A, and then we're gonna wrap up with what is next. Quickly, some of you might have seen us for the first time. So we are B5 Digital, based in Windhoek, Namibia, full service digital marketing agency. And we really do solve business challenges by providing digital marketing strategy and technology solutions to help our customers and clients reach and excite their customers and consumers. We don't want to hold you too long on this one, but we essentially do quite a few services on the digital marketing side. We are immensely proud on our marketing automation and CRM services, also on our WhatsApp enterprise chatbot platforms, and a few others. So please do check us out either now or later. And we would also like to introduce our tech partners. Without whom this webinar wouldn't have been possible. In no particular order, Rocket Seed, the email signature solution, Salesforce. We are a proud Salesforce partner since 2020, the world's #1 CRM. And we are also equally proud a SharpSpring silver partner at this point in time, SharpSpring being your marketing automation and your growth revenue platform. With that, I would like to hand over to Aina, who's my co-host today, and he will talk us through some housekeeping.
I mean, it sounded there like you forgot my name.
So much.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Aina Ilunga, Customer Success Officer at B5 Digital. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of housekeeping. The video is recorded and you will receive it by the end of the week. So don't worry, but do take notes because notes are always good. We have a Q&A functionality, which I'd love you guys, if you have any questions, put them through in the Q&A functionality and we'll pass them on to Musa, myself, or Armin. If I do see that one of you doesn't know the weather Q&A facility functionality, it's at the bottom of your screen. But if you do put one in the chat, don't worry, I am monitoring the chat and I'll put it through to Musa, Armin, or myself. Also, you can win a V5 digital diary. That's cool. If you go on Twitter and use the hashtag V5Africa. So we're looking through, so please do go there and you can win yourself a Moleskine diary. And also now we're going on to the why you are all here. And like David said, he's super excited for this whole webinar. I'm going to introduce the floor now to Mr. Musa Kalenga. I am super excited. A little bit attacked by the part where it says pray for the millennials because I'm a millennial. But yeah, Musa, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. Let me just get everything lined up and set up over here. There we go. All right, so welcome everybody, and thank you for that very kind and generous introduction, Aina. You and me both. I am also a millennial, so that song touches me in many different ways on my studio and regularly. But today we're here to talk about how it may touch other people, because the discussion effectively is going to be a thought starter around leadership at the speed of light. The cornerstone of which is that we have to start leading people across different generations, potentially different ages, different backgrounds, and people that are coming from entirely different walks of life. And so part of the discussion today is going to be all about helping us understand what we need to be thinking about when we're leading different generations, but we're trying to achieve amazing and phenomenal outcomes and goals. I thought I'd start by giving a quick summary of my short jungle gym career, as I call it. My first business was started on the steps of the Great Hall at a university called Wits here in Johannesburg. That was a business effectively that was all about collecting data and research from young people at the time, using Facebook, which was still not as cool as it is today, but that effectively evolved into a consultancy business, which was acquired by the Brand Leadership Group. They spent some time as the managing director of IHOP, which was a division of the Brand Leadership Group that was struggling to transition into the new world of digital and technology. So my job was effectively build a value proposition around customer relationship management, as well as online relationship management to take that business into the future. I then spent a couple of years at Nedbank, which was my first gig in a kind of corporate context. So my mother was extremely happy when I told I was working for a bank. As you all may know, African parents really, really get excited. If you're a lawyer, if you're a banker, if you're an economist or an engineer, one of those fancy titles. Otherwise, you're a failure, as I was defined up until that point. So when I started working at the bank, my mother was very excited, and I spent 3 years there as the group head of digital marketing. My job was really to herd all the cats, all the different business units, trying to figure out what they needed to do with digital and technology. And so my job was to define an enterprise strategy and get them to kind of move in one direction. I then spent some time at Facebook. At the time, they were coming into Africa for the first time. They'd been servicing us out of Dubai. Some of you that have been in the industry for a long time will remember they had an office set up there, and they were pretty much looking after sub-Sahara Africa. So when they came into Africa, I was what they referred to as a client partner, which was the commercial lead as far as the business was concerned. And it was an exciting 4-year journey because I got to learn a lot about technology. But I also got to spend time in very interesting and different markets, including East, West, and Southern Africa at a wide spread of different sectors and industries. So it was quite an eye-opening journey. And because of that, I decided to write a book which captured a lot of my learnings, a lot of the challenges I'd faced, and some of the interesting things that I'd observed. The book's called Ladders and Trampolines, which effectively is a decision-making matrix that allows people to understand the difference between exponential decisions, which are trampolines, and incremental decisions, which are typically ladders. So that book was a great cathartic exercise and just kind of thinking about all the stuff I had been through, but also articulating a story at that time. And since then, I've invested in a number of different businesses. I like to dabble with startups that are using creativity and technology to solve for really key challenges that we face as a continent. I'm also invested in an agency called the Brave Group, and I spend quite a bit of time between that and Bridge Labs, which is a software engineering business. And so a lot of what the content I'm going to speak to you about today is really drawing from a lot of the experiences that have come from these different businesses and giving you a framework based on what I've experienced. And hopefully some of it will make sense or connect with where you're at. And so I think a good place to start is just to speak a little bit about generational theory. So we all understand that since the 1930s right till now, we've been able to categorize the different phases to be able to group them into various different age groups, as well as descriptions for those age groups, whether it's a boomer, which was born in the 1950s, or it's a generation Y, which was born in the late 1995s, or us generation X's and the alpha generation. We've all been able to classify them across the different generations to get an understanding of what characteristics make them distinct. One of the interesting things when you look at generational theory, firstly, across the generations, young people tend to get smarter over time. So if you look at the kind of information that we can access, the kind of knowledge that's freely available, young people are getting smarter over time, which is a bit of a challenge for a lot of people to accept. But the reality is, because of access to information, we're dealing with increasingly smarter young people. The second thing is we're going to be seeing that they're going to not necessarily respect traditional structure in terms of the world of work that a lot of us might have been used to. And therefore, for them, unstructured ways to engage and create economic value will ultimately be important for them. So those are important things to keep in mind, because if we look at the nuance and you double click on each generation, you'll also start to see that there's slang terms that define different generations. There's iconic toys that define different generations. There's leadership styles. All of it is very specific. So if I think about myself as a millennial, my iconic toy was a BMX, and I can absolutely swear to that. So any of you that are on the call and that are millennials will have understood the BMX. Those that came just before us, you were pretty enthralled by the Rubik's Cube. Go figure. But that was something that was really, really important for you guys. And then there was the guys who went to the Frisbee, which once again is pretty bizarre for me. But if you think about the generations going forward, for them, things like a fidget spinner and those poppers are going to be iconic toys, or the scooter, the electric scooter is going to be an iconic toy, which is different, right? And so that thing has changed, that has evolved. What's also important to think about is leadership styles. So as we try and lead them, we bring them into our sectors and our industries and try and get the best out of them. We have to understand that leadership styles have moved from the builders who are all about control right through to where we are now, where we're moving into empowering and inspiring leadership styles. And so if you're thinking about recruiting young people and bringing them into your organization, you need to be thinking about how you're creating ways to empower them and how you're creating a leadership structure that fundamentally inspires them. Because if they're not inspired, they won't deliver. And a lot of that creates frustration for a lot of people because they tend to hop around, right? Young people are here, they're there, they're everywhere, because they're trying to find inspiration in what they do. The reality is when they find it, they tend to double down. And so when we think about generational theory, it's a really important starting point in us contextualizing the challenge we face in being able to adapt our leadership styles to this new generation. So I thought I'd do a little bit of a throw forward. I know we usually do throwbacks. I'm going to throw forward to 2029, a year which is not very far off. In fact, it's 8 years away. And I've got 2 children at the moment, my son and my daughter. My son is 10, my daughter is 5, and they'll be teenagers in 2029, which gives me heart palpitations every time I think about it. But I've had to deal with it. I've had to deal with the fact that they're going to grow up and they're going to become little human beings. And in 2029, I often think about the world that they're going to be living in. I often reflect on the kind of experiences that they'll be having. I often try and put myself in the year 2029 to understand how to be able to connect with them. And so one of the things we need to understand about the year 2029 is my kids are likely to have a friend called Kizzy, who was born in Ethiopia and currently lives in London. Or they might happen to have a friend called Adishanka. Adishanka was born in Sri Lanka and he currently lives in Cote d'Ivoire. Or they might have a friend called Imani. Imani is Egyptian of origin and she currently lives in Barcelona. Or they might have a friend called Tana, who was born in Zimbabwe and now currently resides in Windhoek. So this is, potentially the kind of friends my kids will have in 2029. Very diverse, globally orientated, and from various different walks of life. And if I think about this picture, obviously I could try and repeat those names over and over again, but it's going to take up a lot of time. So I'll call them the Fantastic Four to simplify both your and my experience. So if we look at the Fantastic Four as a portrait of potential in the year 2029, and we give them a very simple assignment, and we say to them, why don't you go about designing a banking solution for the 5th Industrial Revolution, right? We give them a challenge. We say, hey, in 2029, build a bank for us. Let's see what you come up with. All right. Think about what they're going to do. Think about the things that they're going to go through and the process that they'll follow. The first thing is we have to understand how will they find each other, right? In 2029, things will have advanced quite significantly. A lot of you on the call probably come from an organization that used a little thing called the Myers-Briggs test. And the Myers-Briggs test is a test for competency. So they ask you a bunch of different questions and they categorize you as a person who's competent or incompetent, and then you get put in a box. So when you went through your interview process, I'm sure a lot of you are going, yep, I did the Myers-Briggs. And that's how currently we identify potential. In the year 2029, that'll be fairly redundant because our Fantastic Four are going to be trying to find people based on the ability to cooperate with one another, right? Cooperability is going to be more important than competency, right? So you'll have a double major cum laude from MIT, but if you can't work with people, if you can't solve challenges with other individuals, it's not necessarily going to be you that's going to be in high demand. It's going to be those that can cooperate and cooperate past your bias and what you know to be true. So we need to be very clear that in the year 2029, how they find each other will be fundamentally different to how they find each other today. The next question is, and this is going to stretch you a little bit, but stay with me. Where do we think they're going to live in 2029? So according to research, we have about 15.3 million square kilometers of city on planet Earth, but we're still failing to provide safety and security for all human beings. So that's less than 3% of the world's surface, which has got city on it. And even with that, we're not able to provide housing and shelter. So is it possible that in the year 2029, our Fantastic Four might be living underground? They might have a subdermal existence. Well, probably some of you are sitting there going, this guy is smoking something and, maybe. But what I tended to do was I tried to find a place where people had actually shown us that prehistoric human beings lived in caves many, many years ago. In fact, the Kango caves in Mpumalanga takes you into a world where you had entire villages that were living in these caves that were really carved out tunnel systems that allowed them to live and to defend themselves and also to thrive underground. Now, for me, it's not really that difficult to understand. If a lot of the cost of being able to build shelter is the brick and mortar of the environment, what happens if we remove that and we invest that in innovation? So, there's innovations at the moment trying to turn solar power into liquid energy, and then we can grow things underground, as an example. So it's very interesting to see that with innovation, we can actually go back to quite a very basic level of existence, but we'll be able to survive. The other thing about living underground is the temperature is generally the right temperature. It's between 20 and 22.5 degrees, sweet spot around 21, right? Which is perfect for human inhabitants. So in 2029, I put it to you that possibly our Fantastic Four could be living underground. What will they be eating in 2029, right? It's probably going to be likely they'll be eating plant-based, sugar and salt-free, reduced calorie and DNA-based food, right? This is probably our reality. It's going to be made real by the fact that all of our Fantastic Four grew up with these goodies on their wrists, wearable devices that are tracking everything and knowing everything about you. So the wearable device collects data, the data gets fed into a server, the server then gives you real-time access into how you're feeling. So if you wake up and you're feeling a bit like you're slouching or you're sluggish, the data will be able to tell you what food you must eat to be able to increase your levels of energy. There'll be a very simple API built into our retailers, and you'll press a button and they'll get you the food that's going to pep your energy levels up, right? That's potentially how they'll be accessing their food in 2029. We also know that in 2029, communication will be different, right? There's an experiment underway at MIT where they've developed a wearable technology which you put on your head, go to sleep at night, and you can get your dream given to you on a USB or a cloud server. Because they've started to understand how to interpret brainwaves to be able to turn that into information, to visualize it so we can do something with it. So in the year 2029, wouldn't it be amazing if we've got this wearable technology that we can communicate across species, as an example? If you think about the fact that world wars, divorces have all happened because of miscommunication, could a technology like this save lives? I think about my own reflection every single day when I come home from work, and I'm sure many husbands on the call will understand my plight. And my wife always asks me, honey, how was your day? And I wish I could take a USB and give her the USB and say, have a good time with my day, right? Wouldn't that be wonderful as a piece of technology? We also have to think about what they're going to be, how they're going to be working in 2029. I've got a big bet placed on holo consulting. So it takes what we're doing now to the next level. So now we can do Zoom calls and that interesting stuff. But I believe that holo consulting will be a service that you'll be able to provide to anyone across the world. So imagine your business could beam Elon Musk into the boardroom and have him provide an opinion on your strategy for $9.99. Right? That's going to be a service proposition. It's going to be very easy to do, and it further reduces the geographic limitations in terms of working with people. We also know that our Fantastic Four will be working with increasingly younger people, because younger people are getting smarter and younger people are able to cooperate a lot better, and they natively understand technology. So we'll start to see increasingly younger people coming to the fore and creating amazing solutions which people buy. How are they going to chill? They're going to continue to get deeper and deeper into technology. So 4-dimensional experiences, if you think about what Travis Scott did with Fortnite, think about what's happening with the development of the metaverse. They're going to get deeper entrenched in these experiences that are digital, that are going to wrap around their worlds, and they're going to be able to relax in those contexts. Now, I know the older ones, the baby boomers, and those guys are going to feel very uncomfortable chilling out with headsets on your head and sitting on a couch in the different alternative universe. But the young people of tomorrow are going to be very comfortable in that world. And so we have to reflect on what that ultimately means. Time magazine released a really interesting publication that spoke about the declining civilization, which is a theory that says all the technology we've invested in up until now as human beings is going to be the reason why we decline as a civilization going forward, right? Which is a very interesting theory, because we spend a lot of time innovating and thinking about how to do things better. And so the technology that's native to young people, there's a theory that says it's going to be the decline of humanity. So we need to be aware of what that means, because it is true. There's an underbelly to everything that we talk about. The mobile device is a fantastic thing. Too much of the mobile device is a problem. Internet connectivity is a fantastic thing. Too much internet connectivity is a problem. So there's going to be a big job to be done around understanding balance and the levers which you pull on to be able to develop and create value. So let's talk about 4 things that are important when you're leading at the speed of light. The first is, in your business, you need to be clear on the purpose of the organization. When you're attracting new talent and global talent, purpose is a core component that differentiates you from everybody else. When I started Bridge Labs, we went on a journey to try and define our purpose. We wanted to attract the best software engineers that were from Africa that wouldn't leave us for big salaries at Google. And so we had to think very cleverly about how we baked purpose into the problems that we solve, but also how we show up as a business. And so we developed this thing called the conundrum, which ultimately is a call to action that's allowed us to be able to keep ourselves honest to what we are here to do. And the conundrum really is based on 2 very clear curves. The first curve is what I call the Human Development Index. That's actually not what I call it, it's what they call it. But it's a data reference point that takes into account all sorts of measures to do with human wellness all over the planet, right? And so what you'll see is that between 1990 and 2020, the graph is sloping up and to the right, which means there's incremental improvement in the human condition, right? What you'll also notice, unfortunately, is that sub-Saharan Africa is the lowest of all those curves, which means despite an incremental improvement, we're still indexing quite far behind everybody else. The second curve I'll show you, which is slightly different, very different in its gradient, is the J curve, which all of you technologists will be aware of. The J curve is the acceleration curve, right? It shows all the potential. It shows going from printing press to 3D printing and beyond. And that acceleration of technology really is what gets us out of bed in the morning. It gets us excited about the possibilities. It's why we're now able to do so many amazing things with microchips, and we're able to advance technology, the sciences, and humanity. The problem is when you overlay the Human Development Index on the technology curve, you've got a point at which technology accelerates past how we're developing humanity. And so that creates, for me, a big challenge. It creates a problem. The problem is, how are we sending people to the moon, but we are not feeding people on planet Earth, right? You'll start to see in mainstream media, people like Prince Harry are calling out billionaires all over the world and saying, hey, guys, you're all on this race to get to the moon, but hey, we've got human beings that are starving. Hey, we've got people that don't have education. And so it means that we have to stop and think about it. So when we're thinking about designing purpose into our business, this conundrum is a core aspect that we use to be able to engage young people around the products that we build and the things that we do. So I thought I'd play a quick video that illustrates a company which I was a bit of a groupie of in the beginning. They've gone on to do really amazing things, but they've understood the principle of purpose and they've baked that into their business model. Have a look at this.
Rwanda is known as the land of a thousand hills.
It is a very difficult country in terms of topography, and many areas are hard to reach.
Traversing that terrain to get to a rural village can take hours, even though it's a very short distance.
Today, if a mother is giving birth and suffers from postpartum hemorrhaging, her life is dependent on getting a blood transfusion.
There are many different types of blood types. They have a limited shelf life. And the challenge is when you need blood, you need it immediately. But it is unpredictable which geography that will occur in.
Hospitals that are in more remote areas can have a very hard time getting enough reliably supplied blood.
The time to order and get the supplies by truck is just too late.
There's no way that we can overcome the time that it takes to get anywhere during the rainy season. And people would say, okay, during the rainy season, we're just not going to make it.
The best case scenario, it would take at least 4 hours. But with Zipline, we are looking at cutting that 4 hours to something like 15 minutes.
It is a team of Rwandese who came together with Zipline to groom the project and to make it happen in Rwanda.
Their ultimate vision is to put each and every one of those 11 million citizens within a 15 to 35-minute delivery of any essential medical product that they could need. And that's a revolutionary idea for any country in the world.
The use of drones to deliver life-saving medical products can overcome the lack of road infrastructure. We need to let our imagination soar.
When you have a commodity, rare in supply, that might be an unusual blood type or something like a rabies vaccine, and you need it immediately, the idea that we could use a drone to be able to deliver this to the country is absolutely brilliant. There's nothing else that could do that in that way.
It is like we will no longer go around hills, but we fly over the hills.
We've pulled together a team from places like Boeing, SpaceX, Google, Lockheed Martin.
And it's an honor for Zipline to partner with the government of Rwanda.
We place a hub next to an existing medical warehouse, and it instantly enables that warehouse to make hundreds of deliveries per day to any location within range.
The doctor sends us their order by text, by phone call, whatever's convenient.
Somebody identifies the need and then prepares the package, puts it on the drone.
Then we take that vehicle and we put it through pre-flight tests. It's launched, it flies automatically out to the clinic.
The path has been already calculated, it's in the computer.
And then they'll receive a text message saying, Zip is 2 minutes away, please walk outside.
It drops the packet, somebody goes and collects it.
It turns around, it flies home, and then we get it ready for the next delivery.
Our service not only makes it possible, but also affordable for countries to deliver reliable access to essential medicines for all of their citizens.
What we are looking forward to see here is saving lives.
This isn't a small step forward. This is a transformational change to how we provide medical care to people across the world.
Right. So that's an illustration of purpose. Imagine being a young person waking up every morning and saying, I'm going to save 11 million lives and put them within 5 to 15 minutes of any essential service. That's something that will allow them to be able to connect deeply with the organization and attract the best talent from all over the world. And so we need to sit and just ask ourselves the question, how well is our organization purpose aligned to the people that are within our business? Because if we're going to lead at the speed of light and attract young talent, we need to have purpose that makes sense, but also that's aligned to the people that are within our organizations. So think about that. I think it's something important, and it's something that we need to square away when we're trying to lead across the generations that we're going to be managing going forward. The second component is culture. And culture really is an important thing for us to think about, because we all understand that they speak about culture being able to trump strategy. And it's true. There's a model which is very simple to understand, but very powerful to implement, called the Spencer-Stuart model. And it really speaks about a framework that talks about interdependence and independence versus flexibility and stability. It pretty much measures your organization's attitude towards these two axes. If you're able to understand where your organization indexes on independence versus interdependence, as well as stability versus flexibility, you'll get a strong sense of how to attract and position yourself to be able to be a great place for young people to work. When you're a place where people are learning all the time, they're being stimulated, when they're obsessed with results and getting the information and connecting the information they have to the work that they do, when they're able to get purpose and enjoyment out of what they do, that's the kind of place where you can start to develop a culture that's a living culture and not necessarily one that's stagnant. A big challenge with many traditional organizations is culture tends to be a set of 5 different points that they stick up on a wall. And over time, because it doesn't evolve, it fails to connect with increasingly younger people that work within our organizations. And so I always think about culture as a living thing. And I'll look at the mobile device. You know, the mobile device is able to do wonderful things because it can connect APIs. So when you buy a new cell phone, you put it on the floor next to the other cell phone, you turn the new cell phone on, the new cell phone asks the old cell phone if it wants to pair with the old cell phone, and then bada bing, your phone has cloned itself. That's an API, right? That creates new value. Imagine if you think about human beings or the people in your organization as APIs, where you can connect them to other people and together they can develop new value. The ability to interconnect and connect across generations is where we can design and solve for increasingly more complex challenges. And so when you think about culture, you have to think about it as a living thing. And culture becomes a framework in which you can create connections. Connections lead to you being able to design and create new value. And so we know that it's said time and time again that culture outperforms strategy. But if you pair the two together, if you have culture and strategy, your organization becomes unbeatable. And it's important to reflect on that, because companies that have done that very well have ended up getting really, really far advanced and been able to create strategic moats around their business. Google is one of those kind of businesses very early on that created strategic moats based on understanding culture and coupling that with strategy. And so my provocation for you is to ask the question, is your business strategy aligned to your culture? Because those two things evolve over time. Your strategy has to be a living thing, and your business strategy is a living, your culture is a living thing. So if you've got two living things evolving over time, you need to constantly be making sure that they're aligned. Because what can happen is that culture can kind of veer off in one direction, your strategy can veer off another direction, and it creates a void in the middle of your business, which is difficult to fill, especially when you're attracting young talent. The next component is really experiences. So when we think about leading at the speed of light, we need to consider how we're designing experiences for young people to not only participate in, but for them to learn from. So I'm going to play a quick case study and then we'll talk about it in a second. Have a look at this.
All these models, like in the Bahamas, the most insane festival the world has ever seen.
Island getaway turned disaster.
It became very barbaric.
Right now, we are the fucking laughing stock of everything.
Just wait until you see what you're getting yourselves into.
American rapper Ja Rule is in the Bahamas with his business partner,
Billy McFarlane.
Is an amazing entrepreneur.
He can convince anyone of pretty much anything.
They just bought an island. Pablo Escobar's island. Oh my gosh.
We're gonna throw a festival, yeah.
Within 48 hours, They sold out. These guys are either completely full of shit or they're the smartest guys in the room. We were working around the clock, no sleep.
Billy's like, bring more workers. We need more workers.
Every single day it got more intense.
He just would not take no for an answer. And he just kept pulling money in somehow.
Desperate people do desperate things.
He was lying to investors and making it seem like we were making a ton of money when we weren't.
I mean, that's fraud.
We need to get the messaging out now that this is not a luxury music festival.
Oh my God.
There's mattresses all over the place getting soaked.
The save yourself mode kicked in.
Right, it's a free-for-all.
It became this looting mentality.
There's an angry mob, they're pissed off and they want their money.
Powerful models built this festival, and then one picture of cheese on toast ripped down the festival.
They just couldn't physically fit that many people on the island.
The event's co-founder is facing up to 20 years in prison.
If you had thousands of dollars to go on a trip to see Blink 182, that's on you. That is Darwinism at its finest.
The biggest event in a decade, I promise you.
I'll be there.
Right, so some of you may have seen the Fire Festival, and the jury is generally out regarding whether Billy McFarlane was a pure genius or an absolute crook. So if you do have an opinion, you can post that in the chat. We'll talk about it later. But what you can't deny is his ability to develop and design experiences that were ultimately too enticing for people to resist. And when you think about a younger generation of individuals, they are thirsty for experiences. That's the reason why they sold out in 48 hours. So if you consider that as a reality and you think about your organization, what are the kind of experiences that you're designing for young people to participate in? How are you going about creating work development plans? How are you going about creating production and development incentives that allow them to tap into new worlds, do new things, experience new environments? I remember when I was at Facebook, one of the interesting and clever things that they did is we once had a conference where I was invited to spend time with all the Black leaders at the Facebook group at the time. And then they invited Jada Pinkett Smith, they invited Will Smith, they invited Nas, and they invited all these fancy guys. And they got them to speak to us. And they spoke to us in such a way that I felt so connected to Jada because Jada was looking at me and talking to me and trying to encourage me. And that experience I'll never forget. Because there's something so tangible and so palpable, right? The result of the experience is they got us to start thinking about the challenges we're facing as Black executives in a global technology business. And that spurred us on to be able to design and create together. So when you think about the younger generation, think about how you'd be able to design inquiry or experience-based learning. Are you creating environments where you can simulate things for them to think about, to stimulate them, to provoke them, to give them something to think about and ponder on? Are you giving them challenges that they need to solve for so that they can gather ideas, they can conduct experiments, they can think about stuff? Because that's the way we're going to need to start getting the best out of them, especially when you're trying to have a minimum risk. When you set them free on the world that is your business, you can create sandboxes where you design specific experiments that allow them to plug in and remain plugged in. And so experiences become a huge driver of how we create value because it allows them to learn while they're doing. It also allows them to collaborate with different people towards solving different problems. And so think about this question: is the lived experience of your organization or your team one that energizes people or one that drains them? Because if you're leading people at the speed of light, the experience within your team has to energize people. It has to lift them so that they want to keep running. If it drains them, it ultimately slows you down. And when it slows you down, over time, you start jogging, over time, you start running, and you start crawling, and over time, you're just not moving. So energizing people through the experiences we design and create is a really important way that we lead younger people and we get them to move quickly. And then the fourth component really is expression. We do know that we live in a world right now where humanity has changed quite a bit, but the one thing that's remained the same is our need and our desire to express ourselves. And for young people that you're going to be leading within your organization, these platforms are going to be crucial for them to feel as though they own, but also that they can have a say on. So I'm going to play you a quick little video of a young lady that pretty much called out the whole of humanity and said we're making nonsense because we're destroying the planet. But she was a teenager when she did this, and she went on the live global network and she effectively said to everybody, you need to pull up your socks because things are not going well.
You only speak of green, eternal economic growth because you are too scared of being unpopular. You only talk about moving forward with the same bad ideas that got us into this mess, even when the only sensible thing to do is pull the emergency brake. You are not mature enough to tell it like it is. Even that burden you leave to us children. But I don't care about being popular. I care about climate justice and a living planet. Our civilization is being sacrificed for the opportunity of a very small number of people to continue making enormous amounts of money. Our biosphere is being sacrificed so that rich people in countries like mine can live in luxury. It is the sufferings of the many which pay for the luxuries of the few. The year 2078, I will celebrate my 75th birthday. If I have children, maybe they will spend that day with me. Maybe they will ask me about you. Maybe they will ask why you didn't do anything while there still was time to act. You say you love your children above all else, and yet you are stealing their future in front of their very eyes.
So that was Greta Thunberg at COP24 in 2018. Her voice is almost haunting, the way she's calling us out, the way she's kind of saying, hey guys, you're getting this thing wrong. And you're getting it so wrong that you're going to leave it to us to fix the issue, right? A global platform created for a teenager, and she's been able to take the opportunity to express herself around issues which should concern each and every one of us. And that's what the importance is of creating these platforms for young people. Closer to home, there's a young man called Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh, who's recently returned from studying in the US, and he started a movement called SMWX, which is effectively about understanding what new age politics mean for young people in South Africa. He's taken platform to create a form of expression for himself. And have a look at this.
Sick and tired of the same old people on the same old channels saying the same old things. It's time to switch it up. It's time to disrupt. And it's time to let these old folks in their old age homes, always talking about politics and doing politics, retire and let some new voices come to the fore. The problem is no one's going to do it for us. I've given up on thinking someone else is going to help us. We just need to start our own platforms, do our own things. And that's exactly what we're going to do with SMWX. Make sure you stay tuned.
It's a fantastic example of doing new platforms to have new expression. In fact, I think he's got a webinar tonight with Harvard Business School speaking about his book called The New Apartheid, which is a really interesting topic. But that's the nature of expression when you talk about young people. And the most important thing we need to think about is that expression is going to start changing because technology is evolving. There's a video I want to play very quickly, which effectively is a look into the metaverse. What that effectively means is that while expression remains core to human beings, the technology that will be available to us will actually change the way we express over time. And so our organizations need to be thinking about that future to be able to.
All right, perfect.
Boy.
Oh, hey, Mark.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, Mark.
Hi, Mark. What's up, Mark?
Whoa, we're floating in space? Who made this place? It's awesome.
Right? It's from a crater I met in LA.
This place is amazing.
Boz, is that you?
Of course it's me. You know I had to be the robot, man.
I thought I was supposed to be the robot.
Whoa.
I knew you were bluffing.
Hey, wait. Where is Naomi?
Let's call her.
Naomi.
Hey, should we deal you in?
Hey. Sorry, I'm running late, but you've got to see what we're checking out. There's an artist going around Soho hiding AR pieces for people to find.
3D street art? That's cool.
Send that link over so we can all look at it. This is stunning.
Okay, that is something.
That's awesome.
Wow. I love the movement.
Wait, it's disappearing.
This is amazing.
Hold on. I'll tip the artist and they'll extend it.
Wow.
brilliant. If you guys like it here, I have another room that you're gonna love. Check out this forest room.
Huh, let's see it.
Koi fish that fly? That's new.
This is wild. Hey, one sec, Boz. It's Priscilla.
Hey, you have to see this. Beast is going crazy.
Oh, I love that guy. We've got to show that to the kids. Can you also send that to my dad?
I'll message him.
All right, see you at home. This place is great, Boz, but there's something I gotta get back to.
Facebook's artist impression, or Meta, is artist impression of the metaverse, which effectively takes us into a new realm of expression and a new space for us to create. So all of those were examples of how young people have developed environments, systems, and entire worlds where things are defined and created by themselves. So in that reality, how are we showing up to ensure that we create platforms for young people to express themselves? And so we need to really ask ourselves, is there room being created, honestly, for self-expression in our teams? And do we encourage it? Because it's only going to accelerate, and the need to express ourselves is a human need. Technology will allow us to do that in a far more nuanced way over time. And so to summarize, the four things we've spoken about was being able to lead at the speed of light means being aware of the purpose that your organization has and how that aligns to the people that you attract. Culture is being important because you need to be able to ensure that it's a living concept. Culture is not a static idea. And culture in the context of your business strategy means that they're always doing a dance together to ensure that they stay up to speed with one another. And then designing experiences for young people to participate in allows them to be more vested in the process, but also the outcome. And then expression, create the platforms for young people to participate in, but also for you as an organization to tap into the understanding and IP that they possess. And so if you put those all together, it blends into a nice space to be able to start thinking differently around how you lead and how you take the organization forward, understanding that you have to do it at pace and with different kinds of people. And so my favorite futurist, Alvin Toffler, just to end off with, says that illiteracy in the 21st century is not about those who can't read or can't write. It's about those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And so that's a really strong provocation, because a lot of what we need to do to lead at the speed of light is to unlearn a lot of bad habits. We need to learn and relearn some new things. And so I encourage you to do that with an open mind. And I wish you all the best, because it's not easy. It's actually an extreme sport. But I'm pretty sure with a little bit of curiosity and some directional intent, you'll all make a success out of it. So thank you for your time. All right, so shall I open it up for Q&A, Aina, or will you take over from here?
Of time to the next question from Nico. He asks you, Musa, what exactly did you learn from your time at Facebook? Actually, he has quite a few questions. So what did you learn from your time at Facebook? What mistakes did you make that you think were important in terms of shaping the person and the leader that you are today? Wow, Nico.
Yes, a lot of questions. So I'll start with what I learned a lot of things, but the reason why the title of the conversation is Leadership at the Speed of Light is I had just come out of working at Nedbank, which is a fairly traditional bank in South Africa. And to give you an example, one of my jobs was to launch the Nedbank app suite. By the time I left Nedbank, I saw the first update at Nedbank probably 6 or 8 months after I had left. When I got to Facebook, we used to use Facebook as an intranet as well. And the Facebook app used to update itself between 6 to 12 times a day, right? So if you think about an update once every 6 months versus 6 to 12 times a day, that the speed is just phenomenal, right? So the first thing I learned about working in Facebook is how you connect speed to productivity, because there's also a fallacy that just by doing things quickly, you're getting stuff done. That's not always the case. Speed connects to productivity, and you do it in such a way that you're building, but you're building quickly. The second thing I learned was scale. So understanding how to build products, massive products, and to be able to roll them out. Fortunately, Facebook had 5,000 engineers doing stuff any given day, but they had a phenomenal ability to build scale and to build it quickly and to figure things out a lot quicker than many other places I'd seen before. Did I make mistakes? Yes, I made lots of mistakes. I think because I had imposter syndrome coming into Facebook, what I did was I burnt out very quickly. So I ended up doing a lot too quickly. And I didn't pace myself. So if I was to say what the first biggest mistake was, that was it, is that because of imposter syndrome, I tried to overcompensate too much. And that led me to compromise myself physically, which was not a great thing. The second thing I learned is that there's a saying that goes, code wins arguments. It's all the engineers at Facebook speak about code winning arguments. What that effectively means is focus on the value that you're creating and stop having idle debates about stuff that doesn't matter, right? So if you're solving for an important problem, build a solution. And once you build a solution, that solution will actually create an opportunity, and that opportunity is what you commercialize. So I tend to see that young people, especially in the African context, we spend a lot of time talking around things and about things, but we don't build much. And so when we build things, you've got something to show and you can see whether it works or whether it doesn't. So that's kind of what I learned and some of the mistakes that I made.
Okay, one more question. I know we're running out of time, but one more question. This is from Gary. Okay, but it actually says, Christine here from Future Media. My experience with my younger employees is that they're difficult to motivate. Keep them motivated so that they put in work time that often needed to make them make a success out of endeavors. On a practical level, how does one convince younger employees to listen and absorb knowledge from their leaders and explore, work hard, and grow?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, and it's a great question because I think we're all faced with the same challenge. I think one of the things that you need to consider thinking about is there's a theory around leadership now called serving leadership, right? Which is an evolution from quite autocratic leadership styles. And with serving leadership, there are very specific ways you need to be approaching people within the context of the organization. And serving leadership has been said to be one of the stronger leadership styles when it comes to leading younger people. So an example of serving leadership is to do away with the fancy titles, right? Serving leadership is about saying, yes, I'm the CEO, but it really doesn't matter. I'm here to understand where you're at and how you're identifying with the world of work. So that proximity that you create is important. The second thing when it comes to serving leadership is to try and spend time actively listening. So the mistake that we make often, because young people don't have all the experience, which we know that they don't, is that because of that, we discount their voice. So still being able to give them a voice and listen to what they're saying becomes, quite important as far as giving them opportunity. I do believe, though, to your point, that there is a part of kind of the old school way of doing things, which relates to hard work, discipline, and mastery, which is still important. And I think you need to start illustrating that more than talking about it. So I think younger people connect with being able to see, input, process, output, very simply put. So if they can see that being lived by leadership and by management, and they can see the output as a result of it, they start to connect what they have to do in the middle, which is the process bit. Their natural inclination is to do it quicker and to take a shortcut. But if you start to help them connect those dots in active conversations, I think it gets a little bit easier. But I think it's an ongoing process of experimentation, but that is a good question to ask.
Okay, so those are the questions that we've received. If you guys have any more questions directed to Musa, please let us know or send us. You can copy it, you can send it in the chat and we'll answer it during the week, or we'll have a private message with you guys. Over to Armin.
Thank you. By the way, those that are not in Windhoek, it's raining so hard here. I have to put in my AirPods because I'm not hearing myself currently. But yeah, those that are either coming from Namibia or have been here know that it's always very welcome, a bit of rain. So thank you so much to Musa for really ending up this amazing V5 Africa webinar series and actually ending it up on a high. We also have our first keynote speaker on board as well. I'm actually just trying to proceed to the next slide here, guys. There we go. All right, so we've got Megan on the line as well. Megan, thank you for being our, for actually opening up the V5 Africa in May this year. And just again, thank you to our audience. You have been amazing. And we would, at this point in time, just like to announce our next keynote speaker. As I mentioned, this was the last one for the year. Musa, you've been amazing. We all learned so much today. This webinar is being recorded. We'll send it out by Friday. And bit of a drum roll. We're going to have Dave Duarte. Met him personally a few times while in South Africa. And he's going to be our next keynote speaker on Wednesday, the 16th of February. And the topic being Connect to Change, Relationships Drive Results. And this V5 Africa webinar will look at how to use digital to grow a more inclusive, participative community for yourself and your organization. So in a way, kind of, kind of continuing where Musa has kind of steered us today. And we're really, really excited for that webinar. So do please join us. We will obviously, as per usual, send out the invitations and all that. But for the time being, I would just like to say thank you again for Musa, for being our keynote speaker today, Leadership at the Speed of Light, and also to my lovely co-host, Aina, for doing an amazing job. And with that, we would like to end today's session and just like to thank you for everybody for participating. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you, Musa. Thank you for everybody for coming.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care, right?